Hello, all you beautiful, beautiful souls, and welcome back to another episode of The Answers. And I hope that all you are good. And for me, I'm recording today actually from Malmö, and last time I was in Zurich, but now I'm back in my base. So I also have the mic here working again. The sun is shining, and I hope the sun is shining on you as well, no matter what the weather is outside. Today, I want to talk about something that I find so interesting, and I love this theory, and that is the red string theory. Red string theory. That's a difficult name to say if you're Swedish. Anyhow, you have probably heard this idea before, this theory before, that somewhere in the world there is someone connected to you by an invisible red string, a person you are somehow meant to meet, a person who changes your life, a person you keep returning to, no matter how much time passes or how complicated life becomes. And honestly, you might already have used this in a very unhealthy way, because you might have used it to justify waiting, or to justify obsession, to justify inconsistency, or to stay emotionally attached to someone who is not fully choosing you, right? So today I want to ground this conversation, like really ground it, so that we don't use the fantasy here in any kind of way. I don't want to make it blurry here. So let's talk about what is really creates those connections. And I love those connections. It's like every dot. This is the red thread somehow. And it is interesting. Do you know what I think about when I talk about this? And it has nothing to do with this topic, red string theory. But you know the movie with Bruce Willis, The Sixth Sense? It's a twist it's a game changer in the ending. But everything is also in that movie like a dot. Everything connects. I find that so beautiful. But and that's a map of your life. There's a chapter in your life, and people need to come into your life to trigger you somehow. But not everyone is meant to stay. But there are some that are actually always coming back, no matter how you push it. So what is creating those connections? What is the red string theory? What is creating this that feels so unforgettable? Why certain people shake your nervous system totally, and why some constant feel familiar, instant familiar, and why some people, or certain people, stays in your mind years and years later, and why sometimes the person who changes your life is not the person you end up with, even if we actually want that, because connection alone is not enough. Intensity is not good enough, and chemistry is not enough. And destiny without consciousness eventually becomes destruction, always. Okay, so let's go deeper on this, because there is a saying and a theory here, and let's begin where the actually heart in this theory is. And the ancients say that this theory, there is an invisible red string connecting certain souls, and no matter distance, all right, no matter timing or life circumstances, the thread somehow remains. It may stretch, it may tangle, people may separate, years may pass, entire lives may happen in between here, but what is truly meant for your soul somehow crosses your path again. And I don't want to teach this and say this in a fantasy. I want to teach this through life itself. Because if you really study human relationships deeply, you start seeing patterns instead of random chaos and coincidences. Nothing happens out of coincidence. Everything has its place, and you are exactly where you are supposed to be in life right now, to teach, to heal, to grow, to learn. But we also need to be able to let go and to be in trust and certainty, so that life can show you fully, so that you can become the best version out of yourself. Because Creator wants the best for you and the maximum for you. So it puts like these actors here and there so that you can grow. But red string theory is the one who actually somehow stays, right? So Why is this happening? Why is this actors coming to you? Because that's meant to be. One person meets you when you are broken. Another meets you when you are awakening. Another meets you when you are finally learning boundaries. And another arrives to show your worth. Another enters your life to expose your wounds. And another becomes home. You recognize this? I for sure do. Why people just enter life somehow. And when you look back years later, you suddenly see the dots. It connects in a way you could never understand while you were inside of exactly that chapter. You just don't see it when it happens, but you see it afterwards. It connects the dots. And at that time, of course, it feels random, but later it feels designed. It's like actors entering stage exactly when the role matters. I will give you an example, actually. I had a health clinic, and that was 2010, and I lost everything in 2010. Like everything. And I really needed money, and I needed 1K, like urgent. So I went into my room, the clinic room, and I talked to a friend. And I said to her, I need this money, like really urgent. And what I didn't know was that my client that was supposed to come into me for nutrition advices and massage was in the waiting room listening, and he heard what I said, but I did not know that. When he entered the room, he said to me, I want to buy for 1.5K so that I don't need to pay every time I'm here. And I said, wow, that is a huge commitment to do, because at that time I took maybe, I don't know, $60 or something for a treatment. So that was a lot of an investment, right? He came only once a month, but he did that out of hearing that I was in need. We are in network today. We have warmth for each other today. He's not in my daily life. He just entered my life exactly at the right point. But I have a huge empathy and kindness for this person. He is an amazing person. So I didn't actually give back to him. Yeah, of course, he got his massage. Of course he did. But I paid forward. This is the thing. He taught me something. I knew this, of course, before, but I was so in survival mode that I was so focused on surviving. But what he did, I just paid it forward. And also today, sometimes when I get an intuition to do pro bono work, I do that. I do that because I want to help others that doesn't have the financially possibility. So sometimes I get the intuition, and I have paid it forward so many times. He taught me something beautiful exactly at the right moment. So people are just there. This is also a manifestation, of course, but the entering of him, and today I can see it clearly why that happened and why he came to just me at the first place. Now, some people and some souls, they are staying for one scene, and some stay for an entire season, and some disappear and return later in the story, right? And a very few become a part of the soul storyline itself. And this is why I believe not every connection has the same assignment. Some people are meant to teach you, to trigger you, to open your heart, to help you grow, to mirror your wounds, to redirect your path, awaken your purpose, and show you what love is and what love is not. Some people are genuinely meant to walk beside you long term. Red string theory. You feel the difference, but you may not always be emotionally mature enough to recognize the difference while you are inside exactly that chapter and experience. In exactly when we're in it, we feel too much. We want too much. The intellectual, the fantasy is coming here. There is a saying, there is a quote that we suffer more in the fantasy and the intellectual than we do in reality. That is beautiful, right? Because the stories we create is also part of the disappointments that we have or expectations. So we suffer more in our minds and than we do in actual reality, what's actually happened. Okay, so not every powerful connection is meant to last. We also need to be able to let go and has it hurt, so that creator can give us the fullest. We just need to be in trust, be in our boundaries, be in our power, and trust the process. If it's meant to come back, it will come back. Because again, nothing happens out of coincidence. It's a design. So the red string theory is frequency. You pull it back if it's meant to be, so you can release it. That's the meaning of your growth. And some people are just not meant to be in your life. And then you need to make room for the ones who are. Otherwise, you would be triggered to teach again, teach again, teach again, and new actors will be sent down. Okay? So you may know it, but you are not always emotionally mature to recognize the difference while you are inside that experience. Okay? So every powerful connection is not meant to last, and not every calm connection lacks depth. That is also to think about. Life works in tall chapters. Think about your own life. Who were you 5 years ago? Who entered your life during that season? Who disappeared once the lesson was learned? I will repeat that. Think about your life 5 years ago. And who disappeared when your lesson was learned? And who stayed after your lesson was learned? What happened here? You start realizing that relationships move with your evolution. Yeah. The version of you that tolerated breadcrumbs attracted one type of relationship, while the version of you that learns self-respect attracts another one. And this is where red string theory becomes deeper than romance. It becomes about soul evolution. Maybe the red string is not only connecting lovers, maybe it connects teachers and friends and children and parents and mentors and soul mirrors. Because some people permanently alter your direction. They're just, pushing that way. But yet we people, we have this strong ego, and also from our attachment styles and our coding, that if you are, for example, anxious, you will push and push and push and try to get that person to stay in your life. But it's not meant to be. It's meant for your healing. If you're in a void, maybe you run and you run and you run until lesson is learned and you can stay. Yeah. Because if you enter a relationship with still corrections to do in your soul, you will be in that relationship still trying to correct that. And that means you may not be ready for that relationship. So we need to do the journeys before we may sometimes find the right one. Yeah. That is meant to stay. So yeah, I don't know what you say about this, because I think that you are starting to think right now and feel the dots and the red string theory in your life. Okay. You were going one way and then you meet them. And now your life is completely different. That cannot always be explained logically. It's not supposed to be. You might meet someone during the hardest year of your life. And at first you believe they are meant to become your forever person. But eventually the relationship ends, and for years you suffer over the ending until you realize the awakening of your confidence inspired your growth and redirected your future and forced you into healing. And that made you confront your wounds. That's so beautiful. The wounds that you have avoided for years. That is why that heartbreak took place at the first place, That is why it happened. So that you can confront your wounds. You are now there, you're completely heartbroken. Yeah, and you don't understand anything, but I promise you, you will understand this years later. You will see that that person cannot be part of your growth. It just cannot happen. Okay? All right, so the relationship ended, but the transformation never did. So was the connection meaningless because it ended? Do you think it was meaningless because it ended? Do you think that? No, of course not. It has a purpose. No, the role was totally completed here. And this is the maturity most people never reach. Not everyone is meant to stay forever, but everyone meaningful leaves something behind. I need to just take something out of here from my computer because it stops calling here. I don't know if you heard the call here. I'm so sorry for that. Okay, now we do this again. There is a rare connection that once we're in life keeps you crossing path all the time and all the time. You separate. Life happens, relationships happens, cities change, years pass, and somehow you meet again. What's happening here? Yeah, you separate, life happens, relationships happens, cities change, years pass, and somehow you meet again. Not from obsession, not from force, not from chasing, but naturally, like life itself, it keeps redirecting the roads. Those connection feels different, not always dramatic, sometimes strangely calm actually, and deeply familiar. You just feel it. You can just feel it. There's something happening inside of you when you meet that person. Like a soul recognizes something here before your mind even understands it. Can you relate to that? You meet a person that this can be in any scenario, in every arena. You meet a person and you just feel, wow, something happened here. Sometimes when you look at my friends and my network, those are people I feel immediate, like they are in my same pack. I just feel it. And also when it comes to romantic, I just feel it. And some it's just a passion or a love that was not meant to stay. But there is also I have one. No, I have actually two. I have two. That when I look at romantic, I have had several relationships, of course, and dating, but there are definitely two that has this huge process that is never leaving my life. One is the dad, of course, to my children. We have a very strong bond as parents, humans, friends. I love, a soul connection that is not romantic. Definitely not. It was, but it's not anymore, of course. And then I have another one that is so connected to me, and we healed so much together. We healed and we grew so much together. We challenged each other. And immediately when I met this person, I knew this is someone that connects to my soul before to my mind. And let's see what's going to happen with that story, right? I think this is a person that will stay in my life forever, and in what way? Yeah, I don't know. Let the creator make that decision. I don't need to do that. I just release it. So naturally, it feels like, how can I say it? Like a calmness when you meet those people, but also there is a path for you to do here. There is an inner work to do here. Okay, so you can twist these kinds of relationships. You can run, become scared, and you can resist, but the thread will always remain. Okay, it will always remain. And yeah, it's somehow beautiful. It's also painful. It's both. The beautiful part of this is that the strongest souls connections usually do not require performance. You do not have to become someone to keep them. You don't need to change yourself. You're just at home. And maybe that is the biggest lesson here. The people true connected to your soul do not only create chemistry, they create growth, alignment, expansion, and truth. They change your life without asking you to lose yourself. And I think that is the true connected soul work here, and the souls being together. Now, what we do is with the red string theory, that is that we sometimes use it as an explanation for trauma bonding, and we say we belong together, we have this beautiful chemistry, but no, this is different. This is just an actor in your life. Trauma bonds versus real connection That is the difference. That's a huge difference. And before I even speak about it, feel the words now. Can you please feel the words? Because I know there is someone in your life right now that is maybe not the real connection, but the trauma bond. Okay? So just feel the words trauma bond, real connection. Trauma bond, real connection. Put the name of the person in that sentence. Put the name of the person that you're thinking about right now. And then you do babam, trauma bond, babam, real connection. And you will feel it in your gut now. Your intuition will tell you now if this is a soul coming into your life for teaching, growing, or actually to walk beside you. So this is something that is very confused with soul connections and soul corrections, but definitely soul connections. That is trauma bonding. Have we all been in trauma bonding? Yes. Oh my God, when I was in trauma bonding, you just cannot realize that the other person is push and pull, hot and cold, and you want to change that, and you stay in that, and it's toxic, and you call it, oh, we are twin flames or something, but you are not. That's just an actor. Maybe that person comes back with a new energy years and years later or something. I don't know. Only Creator knows. Red string theory. Okay. Let's look into trauma bonding. Trauma bonding is not deep love, first of all. It's emotional dependency created through inconsistency, through high and lows, through breadcrumbing, through hot and cold behavior, connection with withdrawal, validation and rejection. Yeah. Your nervous system becomes addicted to relief. You use these kinds of relationships to put out the fire in your anxiety. This is you not handling your own anxiety. This is a relief, hot and cold, push and pull. That's trauma bonding. So every time the person comes back, you feel euphoric. Your anxiety calms down. Your body relaxes temporarily. And you interpret that as relief of love, but it's not. You have to be in a place, or you should be in a place when you're healed so that you can put out this fire yourself. Trauma bonding is when you are constant in this push and pull, only, fighting and pushing for the fire in you to be and to go away. Yeah. Stable love does not create emotional chaos every week or every second day. That's not how love looks like. This is exactly what I mean. This is not the red thread theory or the red thing theory. This is an actor in your life. Yeah. And it's teaching you, and it makes you see your wounds. And you might say now, I have never felt this ever before. Have you said that? Because I have. Real connection actually becomes calmer over time, not more addictive. This is addiction. And a healthy relationship reduces confusion and increases clarity. You know where you stand with that person. You don't need to guess. You're not decoding messages every single day, checking if someone watched your story or trying to become more lovable just to keep the connection alive. Real love does not constantly threaten abandonment. That is trauma bonding. You might experience someone returning to your life again and again for years. And every time they leave, you grieve. You grieve deeply. While every time they come back, you begin to believe the connection must be destined now. And you think this must be destiny. That person comes back all the time. It has to be faith. But returning is not always love. Sometimes it is fear. Sometimes it is loneliness. Sometimes it is ego. And sometimes it's familiarity. This is important for you to understand. It's not returning, it's not always love. Yeah. You can feel deeply connected to someone who is completely incapable of building a healthy relationship with you. And you can love someone and still not be together. Can you do that? Are we allowed to love someone that we are not together with? Yes. Yes, of course you can, but you cannot force it. Again, red string theory, if it's meant to be, it will come back to you. Look at the dots in your life. Look at the keys in your life. Look at the chapters in your life. Why are you the one you are today? Who are you? Why? Because of what dots? And who is actually always coming back, but not in a trauma bonding way, like a calm way. There is something here, right? The sentence alone, for you, the sentence alone could save you years. If you ask yourself this sentence, all right, you can love someone and still not belong together. You can love someone but still not belong together. Feel that one. Because when we don't belong together, we often say, I don't love that person, but yes, you can. Yes, you can. I have that kind of person in my life. I love him to death. To death. But we do not belong together. And faith took us apart. But the growing that I did with this person was immense. This was immense. This was actually also 2010, to be honest. And everyone that is listening now knows exactly. But that person is a beautiful soul. Beautiful soul. And is in a very happy place today. We came into our lives very intense to grow, and we had a beautiful love, very explosive, and it was not meant to be. Do I love him? Yes, of course, as a person, and for what we had many years ago, and to see that person so happy today, I love that. Do we talk? No. Do I still love him? Yes, but in a different kind of way. This was how can we call it, not to be rude, this was an actor somehow. This was someone who came into my life not meant to stay. Exactly, this is what I mean. We need to let those go, but we can still love, right? We don't always need to dislike. Okay, now, why do you attract certain people into your lives? Why does it happen? We go even deeper now. Why certain people keep showing up in your life over and over and over? Because relationships reflect identity, and your patterns are not random. If you repeatedly attract emotionally unavailable people, there is usually a deeper emotional pattern underneath here. Maybe love felt inconsistent growing up. Maybe you learned that you need to earn affection. Maybe you confuse anxiety with attraction. Or maybe you feel safest chasing unavailable people because true intimacy feels vulnerable to you. You might feel and find yourself asking, why do I always meet the same type? But it is also about you holding love, being able to hold love. You cannot ask for much love and consistent love and a safe love if you cannot hold it. All right. So the relationships reflects your identity and your patterns. They are not random. They're not random. Now, why do you always meet the same type? That is a question I often get from clients. Why do I always meet the same types here? Okay, so because until the lesson change, the pattern repeats. Until the lesson changes, the pattern repeats. Different phase, same emotional dynamic. And this is where red string theory becomes interesting psychologically. Maybe the red string is not about one distant person. Maybe life keeps bringing you similar experiences until you evolve emotionally, until you choose differently. Stop abandoning yourself, stop confusing potential with reality, and stop trying to heal people through love. Real transformation now in dating is not how do I get them. It becomes, why am I emotionally available for this dynamic? Why am I emotionally available for this dynamic. That changes everything. There you go. There is the shift. You might notice yourself constantly attracting emotionally unavailable people. And at first you blame dating. Dating sucks. Dating is always difficult. It never has any result. It's always the same. You blame timing, you blame people, but eventually you realize something much, much, much deeper here. Every time someone stable enters your life, you feel bored. Yeah, let that sink in. Why? Because chaos feels familiar. So the issue was never only who you attracted here, it is what your nervous system interpreted as chemistry. Oh, this is deep work. This is deep shadow work. And everything goes together with the red string theory. Can you see it now? How people come into your life, how souls or energies to teach you, to make you grow, to see things that you couldn't see without them. But you also need to see and have the trust when to let go and not form it into trauma bond and say, oh, we have this beautiful chemistry. It must be destiny. No, the destiny here and the correction here is for you to let them go. And if they come back in a new version, they will. And then you have the red string theory. Because we have all the dots. Think about the sixth sense again, and you can see it clearly, the red things here. Yeah. Letting go and trust that actors that zoom out, that is a very important thing in this journey. This is the part that you will probably struggle the most with. Yeah. That is letting go. That is letting go. We don't want to let go. We just don't want to let go. This is a true anxiety about letting people go, and it also can be actually the opposite. You let people go too easy, you just kick them out and you don't give them any chance. Maybe that is your soul question. Maybe that is your learning. Okay, you love now the idea of soulmates, but you struggle with uncertainty. You want guarantees, you want proof, you want control, and you want permanent answers because you don't feel safe otherwise. The truth is, most of us completely, we are so clueless while we are inside our own lives. We are clueless. No one has these answers. You love the idea now of soulmates, but you struggle with uncertainty, guarantees. You want guarantees, you want proof, you want control, you want permanent answers. The truth is, again, most of us, all of us, are clueless, completely clueless, while we are inside of our own lives. How can you know what's going to happen in an hour? How can you control someone else's emotions? Why would you want that? That is your correction. Let it go. Be in your own power. You cannot force. You are trying now to understand timing while living inside the timing, trying to understand people while they are still evolving, trying to understand the meaning of connection while emotions are still active inside of you. Yeah. And that is exactly what forcing, why it never works. It can never work. You cannot force alignment, emotional readiness, healing, or someone trying to heal someone faster into becoming who they are not emotionally capable of being. You cannot control that. And you shouldn't. This is a part of the red thing theory, right? To see everything that's going on around you and the people and the connections and why the reason is. The more you force, the more disconnected you become from yourself and your inner true you. And that is why I believe the lesson of the red string theory, it is not attachment, it is trust. Trusting that what is truly aligned for your soul does not need desperation, manipulation, chasing, or control in order to survive. Yeah, you might think letting go means the connection was not real. But sometimes letting go is actually the deepest form of trust. It is saying, I will stop trying to control the story before life has fully revealed it. Because if a connection is truly a part of your path, life itself has a strange way of creating that crossing again. Trust. Maybe differently, maybe years later, maybe after growth, maybe after healing, maybe after both of you becomes who you needed to become separately before you could even meet again correctly. But what is truly meant for you has a way of returning in some form, not always romantically, not always permanently, not always in the exact way it was planted in your ego, but meaningful. And this is so important because you suffer when you try to make a meaningful connection permanent that is not meant to be permanent. Life doesn't work that way. Not every actor is meant to stay in every chapter. Some actors actually zoom out after the role is complete, not because they were unimportant, not because the connection wasn't fake, and not because the love was meaningless, but because their role inside your evolution had reached completion, has reached completion. Soul contract ended. That is how life works. One person awakens you, another teaches you boundaries, another breaks your illusion, another teaches you emotionally safety, another teaches you loss, another teaches you self-worth. Different actors, different assignments, different chapters, okay? With all these different actors. And suffering begins when you try to force temporary actors' souls into permanent positions simply because your emotions felt powerful. That is when suffering really starts, because you become attached to the role that they played in that chapter without accepting that that story itself is still evolving. Beautiful, huh? Life keeps moving. You keep evolving. And sometimes people leave you because the version of you that needed them no longer exists. And sometimes people leave because the version of you that needed them absolutely no longer exists. That is not a tragedy. That is not a tragedy. That is growth. And then there are rare soul connections where no matter how much life twists or tangles or separates, delays or confuse things, the thread remains alive underneath it all. And you reconnect again, you meet again, and you feel familiarity again. Not through force, not through obsession, not through chasing, but completely naturally. Yeah, red string theory. Like when that happens, life itself, it keeps redirecting the roads back to each other. And maybe that is the peace that you are really searching for. Not certainty that someone will stay forever, but certainty that what is truly aligned cannot miss you. So you stop gripping, chasing, and trying to control outcomes from fear. And instead you start now to trust life more deeply, trusting the process, the exists, the redirections, the timing, even in the endings. Because every meaningful connection leaves something behind. Have you thought about that? Every meaningful connection leaves something behind. Either you have growth or awareness or healing or some kind of transformation. So say thank you to that connection. Say thank you to that red string theory. Maybe the point was never to hold onto every actor forever. How would that look like if we would take every actor that we have had in life and we had all still there? I have friends that I had 10 years ago. I love them. It was a beautiful time. It was a time of friendships over 10, 15 years, but we grew out of each other. We have works and businesses, we grew out of it. We have romantic, relationship, we grew out of it. You see what's happening here. But we always have a win here and a growth here and an awareness and a healing and a transformation that we actually feel now when we look back. That is why that actor came into my life. And yet we hold on to them as we need them. But if they stay, you would not evolve. You see, the point was never to hold on to them forever. The point was to become who the story itself is trying to shape you into. That is the point. So the difference now between addicted love and grounded love. Let me give you something practical here. How do you know the difference between addictive connection and a grounded love? Addictive love feels like obsession, anxiety, and emotional instability, overthinking, fear of losing someone, constant emotional highs and lows, and crashes, waiting for reassurance, and are constantly trying to prove your worth all the time, every minute of the day. You're thinking about proving your worth. Grounded love feels like peace and safety and consistency and emotionally honesty, a calm nervous system, clarity, mutual effort, and emotional freedom. Yeah, one is draining you and the other one is expanding you. Many people are now addicted to emotional intensity because they mistake that for passion and chemistry. And we have all been there, because peace can feel so unfamiliar when your body is so used to chaos. And that is why I talk about, I cannot give you more love if you cannot hold it. Then you will attract people who gives you highs and lows, because that you can hold. This is also an actor for you to grow. Again, you might experience one connection that creates uncertainty, emotionally obsession, and constant overthinking, while another connection feels stable, clear, warm, and emotionally safe. For example, you might spend months obsessing over someone inconsistent and who disappears for days and give mixed signals and suddenly returns without affection. That temporarily calms your anxiety, while another person consistently shows up for you, communicates clearly, and creates emotionally peace, yet strangely feels less exciting in the beginning. Why is that? And that is because chaos activates your nervous system before the intensity and the peace ever can. Never forget that activation is not the same thing as love. And that realization will change everything. It also will change the actors that you take in, right? Maybe the red string theory is not about one magical person. Maybe it's about the invisible connections that shape you, the people who wake you up, mirror you, reveal where you still need healing, teach you love, teach you boundaries, and help you return to yourself. And maybe the strongest connection here, det är helt otroligt. Maybe the red string theory is not about one magical person. Maybe it's about the invisible connection that shapes you, the people who wake you up, mirror you where you still need healing, teach you love, teach you boundaries, and help you to return to yourself. And maybe the strongest connection you will ever create is not with another person. Maybe that is with yourself. The strongest connection is with yourself. That's the growth. Because once you stop abandoning yourself, you will attract a new relationship. Your relationships will change. Your standards change. Your choices change. Your energy changes. And then love stops feeling like this total survival. It will feel like peace. I want you now really to reflect on the red string theory and where you force it and where you let it go. The actors in your life, the growth that you did, where you're at now, and you are exactly where you're supposed to be so that you can be the best version to be able to hold everything, no matter business, love, or your self-love, or leaving the past behind. This is the transformation. This is the transit. And say thank you to every actor that comes into your life. You are also actor in other people's life, and some actually are meant to stay. But that only universe and creator knows. Give trust. Whew, yeah, it's this is a topic for me that I really love this. And when I look back in my life, I really can see all the dots here, and I embrace it. I embrace it. I do not force anything anymore. So I just let it flow, and I heal and I grow. I want you now to repeat after me, and we will do some affirmations here. So take a deep breath and then repeat. I trust what is truly aligned for me cannot miss me. I no longer chase connections that require me to abandon myself. I allow people to play the role in my life without trying to control the entire story and the entire movie. I trust the timing of life, even when I cannot fully understand it yet. I release the need to force love, clarity, or outcomes. I honor the people who changed me, even if they were not meant to stay forever. I no longer confuse emotional chaos with deep love. I am becoming emotionally available for healthy, grounded, and peaceful love. I trust that every meaningful connection carries purpose, growth, and transformation. I choose trust over obsession, peace over control, and alignment over force. Thank you for being with me today in this episode of The Answers. And if you want to contact me, you can do so on my email, info@janettevinberg.se, or all over the social media with my name, Janette Winberg. So until next week, Wednesday, take care of yourself, stay true to yourself, and with lots of love to you from me.